we're going to be moving on to our next recipe. This is a nice little side veg dish, which we're doing a little spin on. So we're going to be making some roasted Brussels sprouts, which is pretty simple in its own right. Oh, we have a question. Sorry. Difference between soup versus broth versus stock. Throwing the hard hidden questions here. Well, soup would be, I guess, the finished product, like the broth with other ingredients in there. And then the definition of stock versus broth can get a little finicky, but generally speaking, stock is made with bones, with animal bones, whereas broth is usually made with, if it's animal-based broth, then it's like ground meat. So broth, you can make a beef broth with like ground beef, or chicken broth with like ground chicken. But if you're using just the bones with some veg, then it would be stock. Hope that clarifies things. It gets confusing when you're talking about vegetable broth and stock because there are no bones. And so some people call it stock, some people call it broth. Who cares? They're just terms. But hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so jumping into the next recipe, we're going to be making some roasted Brussels sprouts. Very, very tasty. And we're going to be adding a little crunch to it. And we're going to be making a savory granola.
Yeah. So really important. You do want to make sure that you're getting your vegetables. So we always talk about kind of like these balanced plates with lots of color. So obviously, like each color is a clue to the different antioxidants, anti-inflammatory phytonutrients that you're getting. And you do want to make sure you get a variety. Each color has a specific name, and that doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure you get a variety of colors. So I always tell people, like, just assess kind of, where you're currently at. And if you notice that you're getting too many yellows and reds, well, then it's time to add a little bit more green into the mix. So like Jared said, Brussels sprouts, I mean, it feels like it's more of a seasonal vegetable, which is awesome, more hardy. But again, we want to make sure that we are adding adequate amounts of protein. So like I said earlier, whenever you're eating a meal, a snack, you do want to make sure that you're incorporating healthy fats and proteins with this as well. So I would say that this crunch is like a topper to boost the making every bite count. So kind of really not only boosting the flavor and the kind of fun in the mouth, but also to increase the amount of calories and protein that you're getting.
We're going to start off with our granola. Now, we've made like very tasty, like sweeter granolas before, but this one is going to be on the savory side. And so this is really nice to, like Steph said, you can use this as a topper in salads or on top of soups or on top of like fish, roasted fish, or veggies like we're doing today. And because it's savory, it's going to sort of add to that depth of flavor, that richness, and it won't seem too out of place. Okay, so bring it back down here, show you what we have for our granola. This is completely up to you, but what we like to do is start off with your oats, okay? So large flaked oats here. These are the pressed oats, old-fashioned, I guess you can call them, that you can find. About a cup of those oats, okay? That's our sort of whole grain there. And then for the nuts and seeds, it is really sort of carte blanche. Do what you want, whatever you have in the house. You can use pumpkin seeds and hemp seeds, chia seeds, and then any nuts as well. So for ours, I have some almonds here, some chopped almonds. I have some sunflower seeds here, and I have some sesame seeds, which I love as well. And they just add a nice bit of flavor to this dish, okay? So any mix of nuts and seeds, about 2.5 cups worth. Again, I'm not really measuring this because I want to kind of show you what to look for when we make it, okay? So mix some nuts and seeds and oats. And then to that, we're going to start off with a little bit of maple syrup for sweetness. You can add honey as well, as long as it drizzles and it's not like that honey that's sort of hard and been in your cupboard for probably a year. but should be able to flow easily. So we're adding about 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup. So yes, it's going to add a little bit of sweetness, but this is also going to help to give us that crunch that we want with our granola. And then this is where things maybe start to get a little strange. So we're adding a little bit of olive oil, about 1 tablespoon to 1.5 tablespoons for this. And then we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce, okay? About 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. Again, this is going to add that big umami, that big savory, salty punch. And then we're going to add some dried herbs. So I have any dried herbs would work really well. You can even add different dried spices. You can add ground turmeric. You can add garam masala. You can add cumin, coriander. Like really, really kind of play with this and experiment. And that's it. So we're going to stir that up. And what we're looking for here is that all of our nuts and seeds and oats are coated evenly and have a nice bit of shine to it, okay? And that would come from the maple syrup. And if we look here, I don't know if you can see how they're a little glossy. That's exactly what we're looking for, okay? If they still look very dry, then just add a little bit more maple syrup. If they look like there's a lot of liquid pooling in the bottom of your bowl, then add more oats and nuts and seeds to kind of soak that up, okay? So again, not really measuring anything, but just so you know what to look for. Once we get to this point, it's going to go onto our baking tray lined with parchment paper. Absolutely use parchment paper for this. This is going to give us that non-stick, okay? We don't want to have it stick or burn on your pan, okay? So use that non-stick. Beautiful. And just like kind of spread it out as best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to flatten it, let it sort of toast evenly as much as possible, okay? And then this is going to go into the oven, 350 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes, okay? Start looking at it at about 15 minutes. It should be nice and golden brown, and that's when you want to pull it from the oven, okay? So that's going to go in. Now I'm going to show you our Brussels sprouts.
And just on that note, this is a really great thing that you could put on top of salads. Like, you don't even have to put it on these specific vegetables, right, Jer? Like, there's so many different options that you can do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That's the beautiful thing about it. And because it has a pretty long storage life, like after it's toasted, you can throw it in a freezer bag, stick it either in the pantry or even in your freezer, and then add it to, soup, salads, roasted fish, carrots, whatever you like. Okay. So now we're going to work with our Brussels sprouts. Okay. Again, coming off of Thanksgiving weekend, you may have had your fill of Brussels sprouts. We love Brussels sprouts at our house, so we, try to eat them any chance we get. And what I like to do, one of my favorite ways to prep them, is just wash and peel the outer layers. Anything that's sort of bruised and scarred, and you can remove that. Trim the bottom. Okay, so again, that will be, the rough part. Just trim a little bit off the bottom, and then cut them in half, just like this. Okay, find that they cook a lot faster because they're obviously cut in half. They're going to take less time, and they roast up beautifully when they have like a nice flat surface like this, or a nice flat side to it. Okay, so to season this, like, I'm keeping it super simple because we have that really flavorful granola. So I'm just adding just a little bit of olive oil, and we'll maybe hit it with just a small pinch of salt, maybe even some black pepper. That's it. Toss it up. Okay. And then do this after your granola is done, because you're going to want to crank your oven up to 450 degrees. Okay. So really, really hot, because we want to get some nice color, and we don't want to cook it for too long, okay, because we still want to retain the crunch. Okay. So 450 degrees for, again, keep an eye on it. It might take about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, just until you get some nice color. And that's it. Now I'm going to show you how to put it all together. So Brussels sprouts out of the oven, looking beautiful, really nice and caramelized, crispy, and that is just from a high oven, right? No need to blanch them, didn't need to fry them. just roasting in a high oven. Get the really, really nice crispy Brussels sprouts. Okay, so China, there we go. There we go. Okay, roasted Brussels sprouts, beautiful. And now our granola. Again, after about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, you're gonna get this beautiful roasted granola. And this is what I love about it, because this is what the maple syrup does, is it keeps everything, holds everything together and gives you these beautiful sort of golden clusters that you can break up into little pieces like this and throw on top of your dishes. Again, this is even like a nice little savory snack on its own too. I'd probably just snack on this on its own.
Yeah, for sure.
Sesame seeds and pumpkin seeds, really, really nice. Okay, so to finish our dish, we're gonna top it with some of those crunchy pieces. Has the sesame seeds and the oats. Really, really nice and tasty.
You don't have to do it only on Brussels sprouts, right? Like you could do this over roasted peppers or, right?
Yeah.
Like anything, right?
Yeah, roasted carrots. I think, again, this is, like you mentioned, like just from having all the nuts and seeds and the oats, like it's going to be super healthy. But from a textural point of view, anytime you feel like you're lacking a little bit of crunch, you can always utilize something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like pureed soups, like a simple pureed sweet potato soup, and then add a little bit of the savory granola crunch on top would be so tasty.
Totally.
So
yeah.
A little bit of that. And then to finish it all off, we're going to add just a touch of grated Parmesan cheese. This is optional, but why not? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And we are using an aged cheese here. So Steph, like for food safety reasons, and I guess for people that are immune compromised, what are the cheeses I guess we want to avoid?
Yeah, you really want to make sure everything is pasteurized and that there's no like mold. You know, like a blue cheese does have kind of natural mold that, you know, people might eat, but that's something that you really want to take note of in terms of cheese, you know, making sure that it's in your, you know, stored appropriately as well. Yeah, so really making sure that you have like pasteurized indicated on the label. Hard cheeses such as cheddar, Swiss, Parmesan are okay, but anything that's raw or unpasteurized dairy foods like a soft or semi-soft cheese, like a brie, a camembert, like I said, blue cheese, those are the ones that you do want to avoid.
Awesome. Okay, so there we go. There we have it. Also, if you're using, like you can do this on a baking sheet. If you're using a pan that goes into the oven, like cast iron, always remember that that handle is going to be very hot when you take it out. I guess it's another food safety or cooking safety tip.
Yeah.
My hand a few times doing that. So
yeah.
There we go. Beautiful, delicious, crispy Brussels sprouts with our savory granola. Awesome.
Hey.